This is the Two Chumps Football Podcast. I'm Chad Wilson. It's Emil Calomino, and we are blazing into this season. Emil, we're already up to week 5 in the NFL. Can you believe that?
Last weekend of September, right?
Second? Man.
No, last weekend. Last weekend.
Week 5 of college football.
Yes.
I apologize. I'm moving this along even faster than people want this moving along. Week 4 NFL. Week 5 on the college football gridiron, and we've got much to talk about. The action that went on last week, what we think about this week's games. We're going to run through our picks, talk about some of the marquee matchups that are coming up this week, and give you what we think are our best bets in both the NFL and college football game. And we're also going to do something here, a little bit of therapy for guys. We're going to talk about the worst bad beats we have ever had. And we want you guys to chime in and play along with us because we know how those bad beats take a piece of you away. Emil.
Is this therapy for people or PTSD?
I mean, listen, you got to just, whatever it is, you got to just let it out. This is a safe space, so to speak. So Emil and I are going to perform our own therapy. He'll tell me his, I'll tell him mine. You guys will hear it all, and hopefully you jump in the comments as well. And guys, just let it out, just let it flow. The key to your successful sports wagering future is by letting go of the past. So we're going to attempt to do that and more coming up here on the Two Chumps Football Podcast. All right, Emil, we're going to just quickly try and get by the Monday night. You and I had an opinion on the Jacksonville-Buffalo game. Needless to say, we were on the wrong side. What's wrong with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars?
Listen, I think that's a universal question around a lot of the league right now. There's a lot of teams out there that are sitting there going, what's wrong with fill in the blank? I mean, anybody who's playing survivor pools this year, they're down to almost nothing after 3 weeks because there's just a group of situations like Trevor Lawrence, like the Cincinnati Bengals, like the Dallas Cowboys, where people are going, well, that's not what we expected. And what happened on Monday night, I don't think anybody truly expected. I mean, Jacksonville struggled, but 47-10, I mean.
They were so out of this so fast. It was
over like it was lightning quick. It was.
Yeah, I want to say, okay, it's not that he doesn't have weapons. I mean, I don't know, man. It's not looking good there. They seem a little too Travis Etienne dependent. And so that could be an issue, but it just doesn't seem to be happening everyone's darling coming out, Emil. There were no flaws. It's Trevor Lawrence. He has good hair. He has a good arm. He's tall. It's everything you ever want in a first-round prospect, and it's just not.
I started thinking about this the other day just with quarterbacks in general. And I think, and I know all the nerds have QBR and everything, but I think it's real hard compared to when we were younger to just look at quarterbacks and quantify them based on numbers because the rules are so skewed and they make it so easy, relatively speaking, to throw the football that you have to really watch guys and watch a team enough to know that is this guy good or not? Because at the end of the year, almost everybody who plays enough is going to throw for 3,500 or more yards and 20 or more touchdowns.
So I don't even think it was about the numbers, though, with Trevor Lawrence. Like I said, 6'4", strong arm. Big, tall, white guy. That's worked a lot in this league.
Yeah, he might, it's getting to the point where I'm starting to say maybe he ain't it. And that's hard when you just paid a guy $55 million, but.
And think of the position that these teams end up in, all right? You've got a guy who didn't implode. I mean, he was not Patrick Mahomes, which is hard for anyone to beat. Not exactly Josh Allen, but not a bum either, so you got to pay him. You have to pay him, and you're going to have to pay him the going rate, and you did that. And when you're sitting there looking at that Buffalo game the other night, you're really asking yourself, what the hell do we have going on here? On the flip side, Emil, both you and I have the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl, and by golly, is that looking good?
I'll tell you what, the old addition by subtraction seems to be working there, and I'm not going to put it all on one guy, but I think a lot of your casual fans, let's say, looked and said, "Oh, they lost some guys on defense, and Stephon Diggs is gone," and automatically started discounting the Buffalo Bills because of that. And in essence, I think they're passing attacks at a different level right now than it was at any time last year.
Yeah, I think it's less predictable, which is kind of what you want. You know, it's good to have a marquee receiver, a guy that can make things happen regardless. But I don't know if that's what Stephon Diggs was in Buffalo. You know, he could get taken out of the game, and you didn't have to do something out of this world to take him out of the game. You know what I mean? Yes, you need to pay more attention to him. I'm not saying that, but you didn't have to do something out of this world to take him
No,
out of the game. And so I guess they were in their right mind to let him go. But both him and Gabe Davis are gone, and the Bills look like world beaters. The other game, Emil.
and I want to follow. I think when we get to the NFL portion, I think there's some other things when we're picking I want to talk about along the line. So let's hold that thought of how teams I think are going to start to maybe reevaluate how they build teams and allocate money, or at least somebody smart's going to come along. And let's talk. We'll save it for the NFL section. Go
Yeah,
to the second.
I definitely wanna hear that. The Bengals played a game, Emil. Um, wow. I mean, what's wrong with those guys?
Did you hear the stat from that game?
Which staff?
The stat for that game, there was
Yeah.
no punts. There were no punts or turnovers in that game. Period.
Well, I mean, your final score would probably indicate that to you. There were massive points put up. Emil,
Yeah,
did you
go look at the drive summation. It's actually funny. Every drive either ended in points or the end of a half or the game, and that's it.
you gotta love it for all you offensive guys out there, you fantasy geeks. You know, you could just really climax off a game like that. So, did you see the throw by Jaden Daniels on the stop and go? Like essentially the game clincher. As a guy who plays defensive back, I got to give a lot of love to that throw that he made. He put enough, a lot of guys messed that up. And he put a nice amount of air up under that throw, and it just fell in right out of the sky. It was a magical throw, man. And you know what? Cliff Kingsbury's over there dialing it up for the Redskins at offensive coordinator.
I think I like what he brought. We talked about that preseason. I mean, he's got a nice combination of elusiveness, great arm talent, seems to be a humble guy. Hopefully they keep him healthy. Because you can only run so much and they'll catch you eventually.
Yeah.
But I think they've got something there. And I was pretty high on Washington coming into the year. I think I had them at 8 and 9, and I'm looking at that division. The Giants are a train wreck. Obviously, at this point, Dallas is, and I believe what you say. I do think at some point the Eagles will implode. I don't think it's crazy if some balls bounce the right way that Washington could somehow win that division at 9 and 8, 10 and 7.
Somehow I feel like at some point, and not necessarily surrounding Jaden, the quarterback situation, Washington will find a way to screw that up. We do have an interesting matchup this week as Cliff heads back to Arizona to play the Cardinals, but we'll talk about that perhaps more in our NFL section. Let's talk about last week in college football.
Do we have to? I'll tell you, right now, usually I love, and you love it more. College football has just been brutal this year so far. It's early. We were 3-3 overall. I'll start with the positive as a group because you were 2-1 and I was 1-2 again. And
I thought I really had a shot at 3-0, man.
you did. Right now you're 5-7, which it beats my 4-8. But you had a shot at 3-0.
We're not killing it, but I can feel myself.
You had two great picks. I mean, the BYU pick that you made was phenomenal. I mean, that game wasn't even close, and I was high on Kansas State all year, and they still may win that conference, because like one loss is not going to be the end of you in that Big 12 at all. But whatever went wrong, I mean, they were not on their game out there. I don't know if it was altitude or whatever, but BYU
Listen,
put it to
look,
them.
my alma mater found out, a couple of years before I got there, but that's a tough non-conference game going out to Provo and playing those guys. A, you do have an altitude issue. Second, B, those guys play hard. And, the third part of that is they're all 26 years old.
I was just going to say, like, each one of them has a wife and 4 kids.
Yeah, they're grown men with kids and bills to pay. So it's always a tough trip.
Your other pick was great. I mean, the score wasn't indicative. Tennessee won 25-15. You were given 7. That was a win, but I never felt like
I was most nervous about, believe it or not.
I never felt like Tennessee wasn't going to cover that game. As it unfolded, they just seemed to have – I mean, Oklahoma seemed like they were never going to score much in that game. So –
got their quarterback is now benched, apparently.
And then finally, you kind of took a loss on my Trojans, given 5.5. They teased us. They teased us. Their undoing in that game was funny. And you're going to watch the coach's film, or you have, I'm sure. I feel like if you look at that game, after I went back, I was out at a wedding and watched plays in that game. There was 58 offensive snaps for Michigan. If you were Pro Football Focus, USC probably won 50 of them. The problem is the ones they lost.
They lost badly.
53-yard run, 41-yard run. Early in the first half, as you were texting me, the USC offensive line in the first half was not doing its job.
No.
Riley was a little bit
part.
Yeah, Riley didn't call a great first half, so they put themselves in a hole 14-3. The upside, if you're a USC fan like me, they showed the ability to take a punch and punch back. They came out in the second half and really dominated it. Michigan had 8 yards of offense going into their last drive in the second half. Where I'm a little disappointed, and you are as a bettor, because you could have won the game, when USC takes control of that ball game at 24-20 and gets the ball with 4.5 minutes left, what you want to see there is a nice drive, make Michigan use their timeouts, kick the field goal, you get the win.
Sure, that would have been lovely.
They go 3 and out. A little disappointed there because Riley is such a good offensive coach. I thought, maybe he'd dial some stuff up to get a first down or 2 at least. Then they punt it back to Michigan with 2.5 minutes left. If you're USC, Michigan can't throw the football. They've shown you no. I mean, I'm going to be on their.
Well, they did load up against a run. This guy busted through there. It happened.
And, the big thing is USC's safety, who's excellent, really good player, missed a big tackle on that run. And it was almost a lazy tackle. I think it was one of those things where, you're going to get him. So, instead of cleaning it up where it's like, you're on the guy and I'm going to come and hit him and make sure he's on the ground, he almost came in with like, you got it. And then once that kid,
he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have the win. I'll tell you what I won't do. I'm going to make and pay extra careful care for our watchers and listeners out there. I will never again make a wager on or make a play on both USC and the Dallas Cowboys in the same weekend, because my friend right here, you see this guy, the strong-faced Italian, was the biggest crybaby. I mean, when Saturday combined with Sunday was like Sunday, I told the guy, look, I'm going to have to mute you.
No, Saturday didn't bother me. I mean, it bothered me.
No, it didn't bother you because you were at a wedding and you couldn't watch every single play. That's
I'll tell you what, that loss was more about missed opportunities. Saturday, I was like, hey, they played well enough in a tough environment. Anybody who thought, like, I know you didn't think this, you just thought USC was good enough to win by 7 or 10 points. I felt like Michigan, that was their season. If you take 2 home losses in September,
you're through.
Even if it's Texas and USC. So I knew they were going to give their best punch. I still thought you made an okay pick. I thought USC could win by a touchdown. I'm okay. Sunday, when we get to that, that's a whole other story. But
This guy was a mess. I was
yeah,
gonna,
let
try
me
and
recap mine. My week started well. I gave you guys Illinois +8 Friday night.
yes, a Friday night winner. You gotta love those.
Love that. They're a hard-nosed football team. That was an excellent football game. They won in overtime outright. Then it got bad. LSU dicked around, for lack of a better word, for a half with UCLA. They go to the locker room 17 all. They shut them out in the second half. They win 34-17. But when you're laying 24 points at the time, it went down to 21
No
and a half.
bueno. Hey,
No good.
listen, you had to know UCLA was up against it. They had to come out with a fight.
Eh,
They got embarrassed at home.
I don't care. I've seen that team play this year. That team's going to lose a lot of football games.
Apparently so. Yes.
And then, and you gave me good advice on this. This team is now entering I probably won't handicap them.
Leave the cowpokes alone, friend.
Oklahoma State +2.5 at home. Tough loss. They lose by 3. I can't complain. It was a tough football game. I felt they could win this game by 10. It's not like Utah put up a ton of points. I expected more, but between this loss and barely beating Arkansas in a game where they gave up 600 plus yards of offense, I am done trying to figure out the 2024 Oklahoma State Cowboys. So I was 1-2. We each have some work to do. Since you got a B last week and I got a C, I'm going to go first. I got a C minus. I mean, you ready?
Have at it.
We're going to go back to Friday night, everybody. Back to Friday night, and here's what we're going to do. His Miami Hurricanes.
I will be in attendance.
There you go. I didn't know that. They're playing Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's already got 2 losses. They lost to Vanderbilt, the smart school in the SEC. You're not supposed to lose to Vanderbilt. And then last week, believe it or not, Rutgers is now sitting at 3-0. They beat Virginia Tech in a close football game. I think it was 26-23. Regardless, Miami's a good team this year, and the reason they're a good team is they've always had some talent there, right? They recruit South Florida, some years more talent than others, but what they have now is consistent quarterback play. When you have consistent quarterback play, even last week where they got off slow, they still blew out South Florida because they've got a guy that knows how to run the offense. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. He's a great athlete. I like the way he throws the football. To me, this feels like, I'm given 19.5. I feel like they're going to win this game by 4 touchdowns. There's nothing I've seen from Virginia Tech. This is not Frank Beamer's Virginia Tech, okay?
There's nothing I'd like more than for that to be right, yes.
Yeah, well, again, I think Miami rings the scoreboard, high 40s. This one feels like 47-20. Something like that to me. So I'll give 19.5 and start my college slate off with a win on Friday night, and then I'll slide over Saturday. This is not necessarily a pick because Notre Dame struggled with these MAC teams. I just really like last year. I remember watching Louisville put a ton of pressure on Notre Dame. And I said that was a pretty good Notre Dame offensive line. This is a young offensive line. It may someday become a good offensive line, but they've got a lot of freshmen and sophomores. I don't like what Notre Dame's passing game is doing there. So this feels to me like, as John Madden would say, a slobber knocker, okay? Like somebody's winning this game 23-20, 23-17, something like that. And I'm good at math, and I see Louisville's getting 6.5. When you play a game like that, that's a lot of points. If that's the way the game plays out, and that's really the way I feel the game is going to play out. So I'm going to grab Louisville plus 6.5. And then finally, 7:30, this line is huge. It's probably because I haven't looked, but I'm almost certain. This is Penn State's whiteout game. And I know, it's whiteout. All right, great. Illinois is a good football team. And Bill is a good football coach. And they're a hard-nosed, gritty team, just like all his teams are. And they're giving Illinois 18 points in this game. Now, they very well may lose the game, but they don't have to do much. Just go out there. If they play 85% of the way they played last Friday night, they should be well within 18 points here. There's nothing that I've seen from Penn State to date between the West Virginia game, which you watched the coaches film and you said West Virginia, that was more about West Virginia boogering that game up than it really was about anything Penn State did. The Bowling Green game where they struggled, and last week they beat Kent State. Kent State lost 71-0 to Tennessee. I'll take Illinois plus 18. Penn State's going to have to prove to me that they deserve to be 18-point favorites against a good team.
All right, summarizing Emil's top 3 college football picks for this week. He's going to kick you off again with a Friday night. Why not? Had good luck there last week. He's going to take Miami minus 19. Is there a hook?
And a hook.
19 and a hook over the Virginia Tech Hokies, who are anyone but your dad's Virginia Tech Hokies. He's going to take Louisville, catching just under a touchdown, 6.5 versus Notre Dame. And he says, whiteout, what whiteout? Illinois, baby. Plus 18 against Penn State. All right, Emil, here's what I'm going with this week. Ole Miss has scored 76, 52, 40, and 52 points this season. They are a little pissed at Tennessee scoring a little bit more than them. This is the kind of game where Ole Miss tries to flex their muscle. Kentucky is coming into town, and Kentucky went toe-to-toe with Georgia. So this is Ole Miss's chance to flex their muscle without actually having to face Georgia yet. They want to put a little scare into Georgia, a future opponent, and maybe send a message to the rest of the SEC. Now, of course, you will actually have to play these teams, but don't tell Ole Miss that. They're all about offense and racking it up. And one thing I will say is I watched Kentucky get overwhelmed by South Carolina and an offense that's, let's say, a little more wide open than Georgia. The reason that Georgia game was the way that it was is because Georgia plays close to the best football. It's the kind of football that Kentucky likes to play, slobber knocker kind of football, and it doesn't lend itself to one team running away from the other. And, of course, we got a 13-12 game. That's not how Ole Miss plays football. Obviously, Georgia's going to have better defense than Ole Miss, but what Ole Miss is going to do is continue to put the pressure on Kentucky by getting points, putting up points, and take Kentucky out of the kind of offensive game that they want to play, because Kentucky is not here for moral victories. They want to win that game, and if they fall behind 14 points early, they are going to get out of what it is that they do, and that's just going to play into the hands of Ole Miss. Like I said, Ole Miss is around 50-something points a game. I don't see Kentucky stopping that, especially not at home in a noon kickoff. I think Ole Miss continues to roll, and this is probably another game where they put up, let's call it 45 points or something like that. They may dip under that number. Score their smallest number this year, but I could see like a 45-17 type game here. Ole Miss, so give me them minus 17.5. This thing makes no sense. Auburn is taking on, Auburn is a team that no one can really understand, can explain, that no one understands what the heck's going on. Now they've got a ranked Oklahoma team coming into town with their tail tucked between their legs. This is the same Auburn team that lost to Arkansas. Why in the world would they be such a small underdog in this game? It's enough for me to say, you know what, I'm going to take Auburn, all right? Oklahoma's not in the right frame of mind or changed their quarterback. They've got a lot going on there. I don't know that Oklahoma should be a road favorite at this point in time. Auburn is smarting. They're feeling a little bit of the pressure. Hugh Freeze has got to get his act together, and this is one way that you can get 2 wins in 1 week, right? This is one of those type games. You beat a ranked opponent in Oklahoma coming to town who feels a little weather beaten. There's a good chance for Auburn. I think I will take them as the 1.5-point underdog in this. Speaking of lines that just seem crazy and don't necessarily make sense, you spoke about it in the opening, how BYU absolutely thumped Kansas State in that game late Saturday night. You would think this should throw BYU up into the stratosphere, according to odds makers and everyone else, and everyone got to watch Baylor lose a game to Colorado, who people don't think much about. Nevertheless, Baylor is a favorite in this game, man, and I've just got to smell a rat here, and I'm going to go with Baylor. What I did notice in that game was that Baylor can play some really good football. You can say perhaps they got overwhelmed at Colorado, the whole homecoming crowd, 8 o'clock game, whatever. I believe in Dave Aranda, even though the results aren't really there. I'll believe in Dave Aranda at home. taking on a BYU team that, though they are, very mature, let's say, at Brigham Young, I don't know that these guys are going to be able to handle the success of a 29-point win over Kansas State as they now travel to Waco and take on a Baylor team that really wants to get their act together. So give me the very motivated Baylor team as a small home favorite of -3.
I got them. I got a recap. You got Ole Miss. You got lane change -17.5. He's going to be
That's
lane
it,
changing
baby.
all over Kentucky.
Give me them points.
Auburn +1.5 at home against Oklahoma. That does seem fishy. You would think Oklahoma seems fishy.
Smelling a rat, my
And
friend.
then Baylor, who gave up a 50-yard touchdown pass to send a game to overtime last weekend, lose to Colorado, somehow is installed as a 3-point favorite at home against BYU coming off a 29-point win. I'm with you there. Doesn't feel right. So Chad's Ole Miss, Auburn, Baylor, 3 winners. Now you know what we got to do? This is our therapy session before we get to the end.
No, not yet,
No?
my friend. We've got a big game happening Saturday night
Oh,
that both of us were too scared to take on for whatever reason, but we're not scared enough to not give you an opinion, and so we're going to do that. It's a big old familiar SEC battle as Georgia travels to take on Alabama. One thing that's not familiar is the person that's going to be walking up and down the sidelines for Alabama for the first time in many, many years. I don't even want to count, since 2009, I believe. Or maybe I'm wrong. 2008, 2009.
no, he's 2007.
Are we sure?
He was there. Remember, he won the championship. He split the championship in 2003 with my Trojans when he was at LSU. 2007, LSU won the national title. He wasn't there anymore. That was
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Well, like I said, almost 2 decades here. We're going to have a new coach on the sidelines. It's Kalen DeBoer, who's done, Emil, I will say, better than I expected to this point, I will say.
Wait. Why? They didn't.
Well,
I mean,
I'm saying I'm looking at a team that, yes, they've not played anyone major. That's not their fault, but they've handled all of these teams that they've taken on. And most notably, I love the way that they turned up at Wisconsin because, Wisconsin is always a tough team to take on, especially up in that part of the land
that's
where
true.
you've never
I
been
mean,
before.
they did Wisconsin pretty good.
Yeah, I gotta give them credit for that. Here's the problem, though. Georgia comes into this thing tested. They come into this thing tested. They had a very tough opener against Clemson. They've faced a defense that's probably as good as what Alabama's going to put out there in the field. They've come to within a bejesus point of losing a football game against Kentucky. So they've already had the life scared out of them and had to play a full 60-minute football game, something Alabama is yet to have to be able to do. And how motivated is Georgia now to finally take on Alabama without the Godfather walking up and down the sidelines? Kirby Smart is really good at pregame speeches. So if I'm going to lean one way or the other in this, I'm going to take Georgia. And I think they're 2-point favorites in this. Is that what it is, what it's down to? Yeah, people might say, yeah, this is Alabama getting points at home for the first time since 2007. But there's a reason here. Georgia's been ascending over the last few years. Alabama is now under the control of a new guy. And this will be the first real test, and it's really the ultimate test. You can argue that Georgia's the number one team in the country, and this is your first real test. I don't see them passing it, Emil.
I don't even have a lean. If we did 4 picks, this would probably be my 4th pick. I just think Georgia is going to win this football game. I think it's a small line. There's some doubt maybe in Vegas, or they know there's some doubt in bettors' minds because people tend to put too much importance on a close call. You can win by 100, you win by 1, it counts as a win.
That's how Georgia plays football games, though.
And the other thing is good teams, right, figure out a way how not to lose those kind of games where they didn't have their best stuff that day. Average teams and bad teams will lose a game like that where they should easily win because that's what they do. That's what makes them average. I actually view that as a sign of strength for Georgia because it was a road game. I'd be more concerned if it was at home. I just think they'll win this game. It won't be a blowout because I don't think they play that way. This feels like they'll win the game by 10, 13 points, 27-17, 30-17, but I think they'll win the game.
I wonder if we get that many points scored in this game. If it was 20-17, I wouldn't be surprised.
Turnovers. I think there'll be turnovers in this game.
I don't know. It's a pretty veteran quarterback at Georgia. And you could say the same at Alabama.
He runs, guys run, guys tend to get stripped of footballs, weird things happen, hold the ball a little. He hasn't faced a defense like Georgia's this year. Hold the ball a tick too long in the pocket, somebody strips it, short fields.
What do the odds makers think the total should be on this game? They've got it at 48. So
well, I did not know that. I said to you 27-17, 30-17. It just feels. I think
you think Georgia 2-touchdown win here.
I think Georgia can win this by double digits. Not kill them, but I think at the end of I think if they'll wear them down, this feels like one of those games close at halftime, adjustments, second half. I feel like Georgia will start to pull away because I think they're the better team, frankly.
Yeah. I don't know if I see 2-touchdown win, but this game ended up 21-16, something like that, a bunch of field goals, something of that nature. It wouldn't surprise me, but I'm with you. I think Georgia prevails here. Kirby Smart, you can't lose to Alabama when Nick Saban leaves. At least not
that would be bad.
That'd be really bad news.
Yeah.
You just know that Alabama's going to get better, obviously, in the long term with DeBoer there. He's a good football coach. Just whatever he lacks this year a whole lot of it is going to be just being brand new. So I will be nestled in front of the television watching that one on Saturday. If you love defense, like I do, tune in to Georgia versus Alabama come Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. How'd you like that promo?
Well, that's a good promo.
If you do what we do, pick games, you wager on a game, you have had bad beats. Anything from a meaningless 3-point bucket that's been hit, or a bottom of the ninth inning, or no, not even a bottom of the ninth inning, a extra innings grand slam when you had plus 1.5 runs on the visiting team, or any number of things that can happen in a football game. We've all experienced it. What we are going to talk about today are our worst bad beats, and we want you guys listening and watching us to fall in line with this. This segment is sponsored by Bovada Sportsbook, who's hoping you have a really horrible couple of bad beats this weekend and they take your money and run off with it. Let me not say that. Just a quick word on our sponsor, Bovada, one of the longest operating, most trusted sports books operating on the internet. Great lines, great customer service, quick payouts, all of the great stuff that you want. Plus a very nice sign up and deposit bonus. Go check that out. We'll have a link in the description, both for our podcast listening to audience as well as YouTube. But Emil, these are the pains. And listen, I know I'm speaking for everyone listening to this. When you have these bad beats, you swear off gambling forever. I'm never doing this again. I'm done. This is it for me. Well, you're going to share your story. I know in mine, I was done. This is it. Never wagering ever again. This is the fix. That I'm cursed. Never doing this again. But I'm going to let you go first, my friend, because you have a story that not only involves a bad beat, but it involves your favorite college football team in the most ridiculous way.
Let me set this up for the audience here. For all you people who are Buffalo Bills fans and you want to remember the Music City Miracle, well, here, I'll give you one. The year is 1996. Okay, now remember that because John Robinson was on his second tour as USC coach. And for some of you guys that are younger than us and folks listening, John Robinson won a national championship at USC in the late 70s and went on to become a successful coach with the Los Angeles Rams. That ended, and he was a little bored. And Robinson stayed a USC fan until till he was old age. Okay, he was a true fan. He wanted to come back. The program had been through some average coaches, so he comes back, and they've got a pretty middle, average, let's say, not nondescript football team in 1996. Their final record that year would end up 6-6.
John Robinson fan too, by the way. But
yeah, John's a good guy. They were 6-6 this season. Okay, middle of the year, it's October. Matter of fact, they're playing Arizona State. Now, for context, this is the Arizona State team of Jake Plummer, Pat Tillman. They run the table this season. They would eventually go 11-0 and play Ohio State in the Rose Bowl and lose an excellent game, 20-17. They ended up top 5 in the country. They probably could have won a national championship had they won that Rose Bowl, or at least been right there. So they were favored in this game, and I want to say the number was definitely more than a touchdown. It was 8.5, 9, something like that. It might have went off at 10 at game time. What's important here is, and I looked at it and said, okay, I'm an SC fan, but SC was the type of team where they always had talent. They had guys. So I figured, hey, they can come in within this number. Arizona State will probably beat us on this day in the desert, but we can come within this number, no problem. Well, let's speed it along because we only have limited amount of time. The game is tied. It goes to overtime. I got 9 points. Let's use 9 because it's more than a touchdown.
You're good.
I won.
Can't lose.
Arizona State gets the ball first. We have the goofy rules we have now. Touchdown. So I think the score was 42-35 at that point. It was a high-scoring game. Arizona State's ahead. USC has the ball. I don't know if it was the first, the second, or the third play, but either way.
Now, here's the thing. You're a fan, so you want them to score. You want your team to win. You want your team to win.
Remember, I can't lose. Of course,
you can't lose a bet, but you're also a USC fan, so you're still engaged.
I want them to score because scoring isn't going to hurt me. I can't lose.
I'm just saying that because you're forced to watch what happens. If it was Wake Forest versus Vanderbilt, honey, let's go get something to eat before the later games come on. I got this one in the bag. No, you had to sit here and watch.
No, I sat and watched it. So I don't know what play it was in the drive. I'm not going to lie. It's 28 years ago. The USC kid, though, gets hit, fumbles. Ball goes up in the air, sort of, what I remember. Kid from Arizona State ends up with the ball. Now, remember, you're down at this end of the field. The game's over.
Wait. Even before that, Emil, because I'm going to reveal something to you right now. I had something riding on that game, and I was on the same side of you. Now, mind you, we did not know each other back then. I had something riding on it. It was a very questionable fumble. It was one of these deals where the kid looked like he was throwing the ball, and it came out and rolled on the ground, and everyone stopped, save this kid from Arizona State. Carry on.
Okay. But once he has possession of the ball, all he needs to do is roll around on the ground and celebrate.
Game over.
Game's over. It's overtime. It's college overtime rules. He houses it.
He's a lineman. Ball in his hand. No, USC gave a chase.
I'm laughing at it now, but back then I wanted to cry. Okay, this kid takes it to the house. Final score ends up 48-35. So literally, in overtime, I get outscored by 13 points.
If you would have left your house, walked up, gone and had a night, right? And there was no social media. Internet was a little sketchy then. You certainly weren't getting it on your phone.
No.
If you were a degenerate, you had a sports pager, but that's not you. You weren't that kind of guy. You're going to go out, spend 2-3 hours, come home, and you may not log on. All right, I'm just setting the scene for 1996. You probably aren't going to log on because it wasn't really a thing to do. You might cut the TV on to see the later games, and that ticker is going to be going at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And that ticker, you got to wait. And you may or may not even be looking for that game because it was in the bag when I left. No way I could lose. And then you're going to see that score, 48-35.
But I mean, I want people to really think about this. There's no way you put that in your calculus in your brain that in a college overtime setting,
There's no way.
you can't even calibrate that. You don't even think about it.
And you know what sucked is that we did have those new overtime rules for the young audience that doesn't know. There was a time before that college football games could end in a tie. So we didn't even have that overtime stuff.
No.
Second of all, there was no review. If you review that, it's a pretty good chance that that touchdown gets called back. Yeah, it's for nothing. Arizona State still wins the game, but my poor friend Emil wins his bet. And I'm going to say this again to you, Emil. So would I. That killed a parlay for me. And let me tell you the emotions I went through as that kid picked the ball up and started running down the field. I'm like, no, just lay down. No, somebody go get this kid. He's running. No, there's no way this can happen.
Every person who's listening to this show has had this happen recently with an over-under in an NFL game at some point where they start throwing that ball around on the final kickoff, and then it just goes laying around because nobody's, from the receiving team is near it, and a guy will pick it up and say, oh, here's 6 free points. And I mean, so every person listening has had a similar situation, but that feeling of watching somebody do that is you're just sitting there empty.
And listen, Emil, like you said, it's an overtime game, so you're watching this kid run 80, 90 yards with the ball. You've had a long time watching the knife go in and hoping to God anything would happen. A cactus would come flying out of nowhere.
Anything. I want to hear you top this because I don't even know how you top that story.
I'm going to tell you this, Emil. The reason I didn't go take pills, jump off of a roof, or stick a gun in my mouth off of that USC Arizona State loss is because what happened to me exactly 1 year before.
Okay.
You set the scene for you. Pittsburgh Steelers. 1995 season, you would remember, damn good football team. So good, they end up in a Super Bowl against your Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Down to the final week of the season. I'm going to set the stage for you. I'm kind of new out of college. My NFL career, though I was still trying to push for it, wasn't happening. And I could use the money. Now, I'm working in a regular office. I'm a regular schmo working in an office. And do you remember the parlay cards that used to come in?
Of course.
We had a guy in the office would come around with these parlay cards, and this was kind of new to me, but people kept playing. I'm like, man, I played football. I know what's going on. So playing these cards. So we're down to the final week of the season. Pittsburgh Steelers playing at the Green Bay Packers. Like I said, Pittsburgh Steelers, damn good football team. They went to the Super Bowl that year. I have a 10-team parlay, right? If I'm remembering correctly, $20 wager returns me $6,000. $6,000. I could have used all of that $6,000 at this point in 1995. Would have been great for me. Cool. You put a parlay in, you hope for the best. This Green Bay Packer-Pittsburgh game is a late game. By golly, through the 1 p.m. games, which is where most of my picks were, all but 2 of them, I'm 8-0.
Wow.
This is going to happen. It's going to happen for me. I've been dreaming of this. Now, I'd hit a couple of other smaller parlays during the year, but not a 10-team parlay. This will make my year. This will make the entire football season for me. So I have 2 plays remaining. The 2 plays remaining are on 1 game. Pittsburgh plus, just remembering this, just hurts me. Pittsburgh plus 6 over 43.5. Nice back and forth game.
Boy, Pittsburgh has to be resting starters to be getting 6 here.
Well, you're at Green Bay, who in 1995 was a damn good football team too. I don't quite remember the whole scenario there. I don't quite remember what was going on.
Yeah.
But it's Brett Favre's Packers and I think they went to the Super Bowl the next year. They were damn good. So
They
one of
lost the
those
NFC Championship game that year in Dallas.
and we're there in the snow in Lambeau Field.
Right.
If you remember the parlay cards, they were great if you're taking dogs because the lines would be kind of inflated for favorites.
But ties lose.
Yes, and there were no half points.
That's right.
There were no half points. So, yes, I actually remember it. I had Pittsburgh +5 over 44 because you had no half points. Pittsburgh +5 over 44. Scores 24-19, Emil. I'm in a little bit of trouble. But I was kind of happy all game because Pittsburgh's hanging within the number and they're playing strong. Looks like I got it. Final drive. Pittsburgh's got the ball. Neil O'Donnell is moving the ball down the field in a way you never quite seen Neil O'Donnell do. He's moving it. He's moving it. And he's moving it. They're getting all the way down in there. And listen, I'm watching this, wringing my hands. Okay, this is looking good. This is looking good. Now, there's not going to be any field goal. You got to win the football. All right? So they're down there inside of the red zone. 4th down play, 24-19, +5 over 44, 43 points, and Pittsburgh's losing by 5. Again, on the parlay cards, ties lose. Donald drops back. A guy by the name of Yancey Thigpen, who I believe had set a franchise record in receptions that year. That means he can really catch the football. This guy's really good at catching the football. Wide the hell open. O'Donnell hits him in the chest, off his hands. 4th down play on the ground.
I remember the game. Now that you took me back through it, because as a Cowboy fan, those were the 2 teams we played to win our last Super Bowl.
Emil. On the ground. He had to be consoled. I almost had to be arrested. I lost my shit in my mother's living room. I mean, cushions are going all over the place. I almost tore up her whole living room. $20 for $6,000, and I needed that $6,000.
And the context, like you said, at that point in your life, not that you wouldn't like someone to hand you 6 large today, but at that point, that was a real lot of money.
6,000 in 1995 is it's a nice wad. All right, don't make me look up what that would mean now. In today's day and age, it's probably $60,000.
It's probably worth about 20.
Yeah, it's probably $60,000. Nevertheless, it doesn't end there. Pittsburgh goes on. They go to a Super Bowl, and I'm watching this guy in the playoffs do things that he couldn't do for me on that day. They get all the way to the playoffs, get to the Super Bowl. I'm rooting Cowboys because screw that guy. 2 years later, if I'm not mistaken, 2-3 years later, Super Bowl is in Miami. So there's all kind of parties, festivities, etc. down here. I'm a young guy. I'm going to go out, have a good time. I'm at a party. Jermaine Dupri, Jay-Z's there, all type of celebrities there. I'm having a good time. Look across the room. Who do I see?
Yancey Thigpen.
Now, I'm a little wild in my young days, and the voices are talking to me. Go slug that guy in the face. Go hit him. Just hit him. No one will know what it was. I'll just go hit that guy. And I'm having this whole battle in my head.
I thought you were going to go ask him for $6,000.
Yeah, right. You better punch him in the face after that. Emil, it took everything in there for me not to go up to that guy and at least tell him how I felt, which would probably get a smart response for him. I'm a DB. He's a wide receiver, so I don't like him anyway, and just totally slap that guy. And to this day, don't say the name Yancey Thigpen to me because that guy screwed up 2 plays in 1 play. 85 catches that year, Emil. He drops that one.
Because of the amount, I'm going to give you the win on that. Your beat was worse than mine.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you what it did do for me. Because I didn't go completely off the deep end. I didn't get put in a straitjacket. I didn't go jump off a tall building, and I made it to the next year. When that crap happened with USC, it was like, you know what? I've been shot before and survived.
Yep.
So I don't have to. I'm gonna go crazy right now, but I've been there before.
Yeah, it was like, I've been there, done that.
So I would encourage you guys, somehow top what happened to Emil, 13 points in overtime, 13-0 run in overtime in a football game, in college football, or one guy kills a parlay with 1 play that was going to return me $6,000. Hey everyone, are you tired of the hassle of finding last-minute tickets to your favorite events? Look no further than Game Time. The Game Time ticketing app is your go-to source for scoring amazing deals on last-minute tickets to sports, games, concerts, theater shows, and more. And with my exclusive discount code, TrueFan, you can get a discount on your first purchase. With Game Time's new Game Time Picks feature, you don't have to sort through thousands of tickets. You get only the best deals, and that's right up until the last minute. Their easy-to-use app shows a detailed view from the seat before you buy, so you know exactly what you're getting. No more having your view blocked. You don't want to sit in the sun. You get to see all of that before you make your purchase. And the best part, their all-in pricing shows you exactly what you're going to pay before you get out your credit card. There's no more waiting for that other shoe to drop at checkout. So whether you're a diehard sports fan, a music lover, or you're just looking for a fun night out with your girl, Game Time has you covered. Download the Game Time app today, and don't forget to use the promo code TrueFan for an exclusive discount on your first purchase. Don't miss out on the action. Get your tickets now with Game Time. There's something out there because a lot of crazy things happen in sporting events each and every year, each and every week. So, like I said, this is a safe space. You guys jump in that comment section down below and just give us a quick rundown of your worst beat ever and, how it made you feel and who you ended up beating up over that. We'd love to hear from you.
Tell us the game. Give us a paragraph. The game, the situation, how you lost, and we would love to hear it.
The more pain my co-host and I can feel for you in whatever happened. And once again, the worst bad beat ever, sponsored by Bovada Sportsbook. Make sure you hit that link down below. Open an account. Maybe it'll be some good luck for you. And you hit a 10-team parlay for $20 that you could have made $6,000 on and changed your whole life. But anyway, let's head over to the NFL.
We're going to recap last week's NFL, and this segment will be a little bit quicker. We have, I think we agree on some picks this week, so sorry about that. But it's a good thing because, well, we don't consult each other before we do them. So obviously we feel strongly about these games because we came independently with a couple. So last week, the NFL, we've been better than college. Last week, again, was a 3-3 week overall, or 2-4 in the NFL. But overall, Chad's 6-3, I'm 5-4. So we're winning this year in the NFL thus far. You, Chad, had a winner on the Vikings. Sam Darnold looks like a legitimate NFL quarterback at this point.
There.
He looks legitimate. Your other two, and this will kind of we'll piggyback into what Chad was saying earlier. He had the Dolphins. There's not much to say there.
No, I was very disappointed in the quarterback play. Skylar Thompson looked like a complete, absolute rookie. And here's a guy who's had a couple starts, over the last couple of years. As a guy that started a playoff game. He's so unprepared for the game that was sitting there in front of him. And a game that the Dolphins desperately needed to respond to after getting punched in the face at home by a division rival. I really thought we'd get a better effort out of them, but it started with Skylar Thompson. But just across the board, the Dolphins just didn't look ready.
3 points is pathetic when you look at the weapons on the Dolphins, so I don't really care.
The noise is going to start getting loud around Mike McDaniel, man. He just doesn't have very many wins at this point versus teams with winning records. Now, he's a bully. He'll beat up on the guys that, are sub 500. But when he gets in there against winning teams, it's just not working.
And that's a good segue because I feel like my team is in the same category almost as the Dolphins. And I felt that way for the last 2 or 3 years. I've tried to be positive. Preseason, I was not positive on the Cowboys. Chad took the Cowboys.
You were anything positive on Sunday, I'll tell you that.
No, you know what?
I almost had to mute this guy.
He had to mute me because he made a bad pick. That effort.
He would not let me forget it.
Listen, that effort by the Dallas Cowboys, Chad took a loss on them. And you know what? Fair enough. They're home. That's a game that if you're going to be a good football team, you should at least come out with your hair on fire. If you people didn't watch that game out there at the audience, please believe me, that score was not indicative of how embarrassing the Dallas Cowboys were for 3 quarters Sunday. You want to talk about no resistance. And this as a Cowboy fan, I'm watching this team. They paid all this money. CeeDee Lamb, and this is where Jerry Jones, by the way, and you were making jokes about him keeping money in his bank account. This is where he doesn't understand team building. Sure, you paid CeeDee Lamb what you're going to pay him anyway, and you kept your team in the news all summer, and you paid Dak what you're going to pay him anyway. But here's the thing: CeeDee Lamb wasn't in training camp. Okay, a lot of that cohesiveness, just knowing what a guy's going to do. Yeah, they've played together for a while,
Sure.
but you got to do that. That's why they go to training camp. They're not on the same page, okay? Micah Parsons, in my mind, is a paper tiger. He's worn it out with me, okay? I'm sick of him and his podcast doing what we're doing, talking about their loss. It's like, dude, you're a freak athlete. God forbid you were like a 7 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10, because no one would know who you are. He can outrun his stupidity because he's that good of an athlete.
So
Where
you
is
don't
he?
like the whole podcast idea?
Not during the season. Listen, if you're going to do it, you better be LT on Sunday. You can do what you want to do. You can be Michael Jordan and go gamble in Atlantic City when you score 45 points. I didn't know Micah Parsons played most of Sunday. I didn't.
Well, yeah, it wasn't a good performance, so you can't really champion anyone's effort, if you want to say
How about
that.
the week before? In the last 2 games, the Dallas Cowboys have had 2 quarterback pressures and 1 hit.
Yeah, I frankly don't like the way Parsons has been used, but that would be a cop-out because, if you're an athlete like that, you just kind of make it happen. Maybe it could happen better, but you kind of make something happen. The truth of the matter is, Emil, we're talking now the Buffalo game from last year where they were smoked by 3 touchdowns. We're talking about the way they exited from the playoffs last year, completely smoked. I think that was, what was that? That was another almost 3 touchdown.
They were down 30-0 at home in a playoff game.
Smoked like you or Vanderbilt playing Georgia. Then you have the Saints game. And then this one, which, hey, kudos to them for cleaning it up in the second half and making a good effort. You can talk a little bit about the stupid math problem they had at the end of the game that kind of put them up against the 8 ball. But they're on their way to getting completely trashed again. And so this is like 4 games out of the last 5 big ones and where they've just not been able to show up at all. They've been treated like, a super sub 500 football team. Something's not right.
And that's where Dak Prescott does take a lot of heat because, again, it's hard. And I said this in an earlier segment, and I wanted to save it for now. It's very hard in today's day and age to judge quarterbacks on just gross numbers because the way the game is, if your team falls behind and you have good arm talent, you'll put up numbers. You'll do your Kirk Cousins that I always say, Kirk goes down. He still has 300 yards.
Right.
And yeah, you could say Dak got them in the game, but let's be honest. The Cowboys were fortunate. They got an onside kick and stole possession, which kept their defense from embarrassing itself even further. And then they got a gift on their last touchdown when the referee called roughing the passer, where I don't know what he wanted the Baltimore defensive tackle to do aside from getting a pillow out
Right.
and laying him down. Prescott doesn't start fast. That's a problem for a team like Dallas that's built to pressure, well, allegedly built to pressure the quarterback. Because when they fall behind, they can't do what they're supposed to be good at, which is get their ball hawking corners, creating turnovers and havoc. Prescott coming out in Green Bay, falling behind 27-0. Against the Saints, the same thing. Against Baltimore, he plays horrible for 3 quarters. Sure, you look at the stats, end of the day, 2 or 3 touchdowns.
And I'm going to say this. I mean, I hear you. You've got CeeDee Lamb, and that's it. You don't. Brandon Cook's nice receiver if he's in the slot and he's a third option. You need him in order for him to produce. Really, he's at a point where they've got to be paying attention to 2 other.
Who are the receivers on the Kansas City Chiefs last year? That's the thing. If you're going to get that kind of money, you have to elevate the play. There's only 2 ways you can build a football team. Once you become
Andy Reid.
Once you become a great NFL quarterback, and this is what I gave Brady credit for all along. I'll take a little bit less if you put guys around me. You're not going to put it in your pocket, Bob Kraft. If you're going to put it in your pocket, then you're going to pay me. You're going to get me a defense. You're going to make sure I'm not getting my ass drilled. You're going to put an offensive line. I'll take a little less because I'll stay healthy. I'll win. I'll make my money in other places because people love winners. You want all the money, and I don't begrudge them. Hey, if somebody take the money, take the $60 million, but you got to make the guys around you better.
You know, that's a fair point. I'd love to argue with you, my friend, but if you are going to grab all that is quote unquote due to you, well, now you're saying you're the guy and you are going to make Brandon Cook something that he's not by whatever it is that you do. You are going to make the fact that you don't have an A-plus running back that can kind of create some things. You're going to still make him better by what it is that you do. Maybe you change the way the defenses play because of, you know, you're worth $60 million. You'll turn a tight end into.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're not saying this, but I think what people are saying is, well, sure, you know, give him CD Lamb and give him Amari Cooper back in the day, and you know, I want young Ezekiel Elliott, and I also want to make $60 million a year. Well, that's not how the NFL is built. There's a salary cap, so if you want that, you're going to need to elevate some people and protect your defense by sustaining drives, you know, doing the little things that winning quarterbacks, championship quarterbacks, not just winning quarterbacks, know how to do. And that, my friend, is not what he is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Before we jump into how you did last week, which, you know, I'm sure you might want to avoid, Cowboys better get it done this week with an over-giddy Giants, you know, welcoming them home because Emil, it's Pittsburgh, Detroit, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Philadelphia, and Houston coming up.
I'm going to go out on the limb. If they lose this week, and I won't pick the game, I really, honestly, handicapping perspective, I've got no feel for this game. They have better players. We'll see how those better players play. But if they lose this week, my prediction is you could see a coaching change after the bye week.
With Jerry Jones?
He's on a last-year coach. He's got to try to save the season. If they were to lose this week with the money he shelled out, I mean, you're just going to ride. I mean, obviously, if McCarthy
I don't know, you know your team better than me. I just don't see that as a Jerry Jones move.
Well, what I'm telling you is as a football person.
Maybe they make the move without making the move, if you know what I mean.
You are a player. If you love your coach or you like the program, you're balls to the wall this week, not just for your season, but you know your coach is on the hot seat. I mean, if you can't get your guys ready to play in New York this week, there's something wrong. The message isn't getting through.
Well, considering what lies ahead, you need this W because that's a pretty tough slate of 5 games coming up right after that. So
yeah,
we'll see. You know, in terms of your week,
let's talk about my week that was interesting.
I thought your two losers could have been winners, and your winner could have been a loser.
Well, the Colts were my winner. That was purely a system play. I looked at it. I said, you know, I'm a Caleb Williams fan. I want him to do well. I'm not sold on him as an NFL quarterback, and somehow he's like getting 1.5 points on the road. The Colts are 0-2. I mean,
desperation.
They, you know, you got to save your season. They did barely 23-20.
I mean, this was up in the air. It was kind of funny at the end.
And all 3 of these games are up in the air. I had the Chargers plus 1.5 against the Steelers. Game really could have went either way. It was 10-10. The Steelers crept ahead 13-10. They tacked one on back end of the fourth quarter, 20-10.
That hurt.
Yeah, that hurt. And then the Cardinals really played pretty good football against the Lions. I mean, if you told me before the game the Cardinals are only going to give up 20 points today, I would have felt really good about that pick.
Yeah, they had a problem stopping a run, so that undid them. It's shortened the game.
Yeah, so I took a loss there. Again, 1-2. I'm 5-4 on the season. You're 6-3. Since you have the better record and we agree on a couple picks, you go and lay them out for us.
All right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start this thing off this week, Emil, with I'm going to I've been decent with these guys so far. I think I've got 2 wins already in the bag with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm going to stay there with them. They're back in their house again after losing to the rookie quarterback and the hapless seemingly at the time Denver Broncos. Coming to town, blow these guys out by damn near 3 touchdowns, 26-7. You got to respond here if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you are a good football team. You're a solid football team, and I really like the resurrection of Baker Mayfield's career. I like what he's doing back there. You got to root for a guy that went to Cleveland and just didn't get it done. It's kind of seemed to be the thing. So he's found a new home in Tampa, and it's not just off of, a good feel story. He's actually playing really good quarterback, and I think he can lead them back from this whatever letdown they had. I guess they just weren't in the right mental space as the Broncos came to town, thought it would be easy. You can never do that in this league. They're going to get the Philadelphia Eagles into town. The recent history at home against Philadelphia is kind of good. So I think this is a familiar area for them. Philadelphia, quite giddy. And they were mouthy after their win over the Saints, who looked unbeatable. They're going to be a little full of themselves. They're going to take a cue from their safety, Chauncey Gardner, who seems to be the big mouthpiece on their team, or at least the media keeps wanting to stick a camera in front of that guy. And if he is representative at all of the mindset that they have in Philadelphia, then this is going to go really, really well for me. And I just think that that's how that's going to go. I've been telling you, I told you this before the season started. I just don't like I just don't like the control, the mindset of the head coach there. It seems to be permeating into the players, because it wasn't just Chauncey Gardner in the game this week. It was Jalen Carter also yapping back and forth with fans. Philadelphia just looks like, you know what Philadelphia looks like? It looks like a wheel on a car that only has one lug nut on it. One lug nut. And it keeps spinning in the wrong direction. It's only a matter of time, Emil, before that wheel comes the hell off. Maybe it happens this week in Tampa. I just know that Tampa is the more motivated team going into this contest. Speaking about motivated, the Chargers had a game that they could win, but they lost it last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Emil, who are 3-0. Who knew? You were higher on the Steelers than me. Mike Tomlin, once again, looks like he might have yet another season where he doesn't have a losing record. Credit and kudos to him on, I could say, in the process of resurrecting Justin Fields' career. They're going to run into some soft stuff on the ground. They're going to have to step in here in a couple of weeks when Russell Wilson's ready to go. But so far, tough, and that was a tough loss for the Chargers. I believe in the Chargers and what it is that they're trying to do. Hopefully Herbert's back in this game and he can play, whether he is or not. This is a lot of cheese on this pizza. And I love to take teams that are getting a good amount of points against a team that just won on national television, as the Chiefs did. Once again, the Chiefs won. I watched everyone bellyache about the officiating. And you know what? I'm going to be honest, Emil, they kind of have a point. Whatever. The NFL scripted. You could go on and on about that, right? The Chiefs find a way to win games. I just don't think the Chiefs can come in and beat the Chargers at home by 8 points plus, which, we're getting 7.5 here. Whether you've got Herbert in there or not, I trust Jim Harbaugh and his ability to find points, dominate the game up front, and make it muddy and keep the game at least close if you're not going to win. So I'm going to take the Chargers plus 7.5. And then finally, the Raiders. Did you hear Antonio Pierce after the game when they lost? They were humbled, humiliated by the Carolina Panthers. He said some guys made some business decisions towards the end of this game, so we're going to make some business decisions too. I think the business decisions, aside from having all types of free agents in the building on Monday working out for guys' position, make a very interesting and tough week of practice. This is one of those weeks where, as a player, if you're trying to leave at 5-something or whatever, you got some long, hard looks. All right, you got some long, hard looks, and maybe you turn around, went back in the building, and you watch a little extra film. I believe in the Raiders' motivation this week. Yes, the Cleveland Browns should also be motivated. You lost to the New York Giants, a team that couldn't get out of their own way. But you're on the road now, and you're still the Cleveland Browns, and your quarterback is not playing the best football of his life. So I don't trust the Cleveland Browns away from home. I don't trust the Cleveland Browns at home. I don't trust the Cleveland Browns doing anything right now. Right now, I'm going to put my trust into the Raiders. Pray for me. I'm going to take the Raiders -2. That's it for me.
Well, my partner here has got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers +2 at home against the Eagles. He's got the LA Chargers +7.5
You wanted to
at
say
home
San
against.
Diego, didn't you?
No, I was about to say San Diego against the Chiefs. And then finally, the Raiders -2 at home against the Browns with a quarterback who said when it comes to controlled runs, he is not a running back, and that's one Deshaun Watson. So, with that, my picks are easy. I'm not going to keep you here long, folks. Independent of Chad, like Tampa Bay in this game, +2. All the reasons Chad laid out, coming off a loss at home, they've got to respond. I think the Eagles are an implosion waiting to happen. Their coach does not resemble a professional football coach.
Not
to
a
me.
grown up.
It's amazing he got them to a Super Bowl. Be happy you got that far, Nick. I think the Eagles are going to lose this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay dominates it, honestly. The other one, I like the Chargers +7.5. I don't care if Henke plays quarterback. I think Harbaugh, like you said, he'll muddy this game up. And to be honest with you, the Chiefs just aren't, for a team that's going for a third straight Super Bowl, they're not a blowout team. That's really not who they are anymore. So I feel like this is one of those games where it's a Harbaugh game, 23-20, somebody wins. You got 7.5, you're sitting pretty. So I like that. The only game I have an extra, that we're not in agreement on, not that we're not in agreement, it's a game we don't have mutually together, is I like the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams. I don't know what they were doing a couple of weeks ago against the Cardinals, but they responded with a big win against the 49ers. And that shows me that this team is not quitting because of one bad performance in Arizona. They can get back to 500 here. And again, they're making the Bears a favorite in this game. I think there's this belief in everything the media told you about Caleb Williams, and maybe he will end up that someday, but he isn't that right now. He's a rookie quarterback that makes a lot of rookie mistakes. He had 3 turnovers last week, 2 interceptions and a fumble. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a couple in this game. I like the Rams outright, of course, if I'm only getting 2.5, but hey, I'm not going to turn the 2.5 down. So give me the Rams +2.5.
Yeah, just some notes on the lines before we take off here. The Bears opened at 1, now they're 3. So someone likes that, number of them being favorites. I'm going to guess that it's the wagering public, and you know how that usually
Are you
goes.
saying I get 3 in this game and not 2.5? Because
Oh, well, that's where we're at, 3. So we'll put you down there for 3, my friend.
folks, if you're listening, when you listen, if it's 3, get the 3.
Jump all over that. Yes.
Jump all over
Absolutely
that.
jump all over that. Philadelphia opened at 3. Now they're down to 2. I'd love to know if that's smart money, but it doesn't really matter to me. And the Chiefs were 3.5 and somehow bumped all the way up to 7.5. I think that has a lot to do with the quarterback situation.
And I'm by the way, I'm okay with it. I mean, I would, first, when a guy hasn't played in a while, give me Tyler Henke in this game with 7.5.
Yeah, and if there's a team that's not quarterback dependent, it's team coached by Jim Harbaugh. Just execute the offense. I don't need you to do anything wild. That's really what Herbert's been doing.
Right.
So I feel good about all that. That's going to do it for us, though, man. We got a lot here. Again, before you guys leave, if you got all the way to this point, hey, share those heartbreaking bad beat stories with us
please.
Down in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you guys. Also, check out our sponsor, Bovada Sportsbook, one of the oldest and most trusted sports books online. Hit the link down below. Hey, if you guys are listening to this and you're not on YouTube and you do have a bad beach story that you need to get off of your chest, go ahead and hit me on email, cwilson@gridironstuds.com. You know what? Yeah, go ahead. Hit us an email. We might read one of these. If it's sad enough, Emil, right?
Oh, if it's a good story, I want to read it.
I'm down for it. I'm down for it. So you can either send that to cwilson@gridironstuds.com or twochumpspod@gridironstuds.com. We'll be happy to read that next week. All right, that's going to do it for us, man. Enjoy the action this weekend. Get your Tostitos, get your grill out, and get a good number on your wagers. And we'll be back to talk to you guys about the action next week. For Emil Calomino, I'm Chad Wilson. Thanks for watching the Two Chumps Football Podcast. See you guys next week.